In this video, we're going to be comparing and contrasting Noel Gallagher from Oasis and Coxon from Blur's guitar playing. Now, I'm going to start this video off by saying this isn't going to be a who's better. We're going to be analysing certain parts of their guitar playing and see whether they're totally different or whether there are actually some similarities in what they play. So to start off with, we're going to be looking at their choice of chords. Now, if we start with Noel Gallagher first, I think it's well known that he has quite a preference for this particular chord progression: E minor 7 to G, D sus4, A7 sus4. Now, those are the Wonderwall chords, and he also uses them quite a lot in different songs. Now, some of them are used in Songbird and also Little by Little too. Generally, Noel Gallagher will stay around the open chord position. The main reason why he decided to do this is he thought that bar chords were pretty uncool, or they looked uncool on stage. You had to kind of contort your body and your fingers to play them, and he didn't want to do that. So he gave that to Bonehead and decided just to stay in this open chord position and also play the lead guitar solos too. So for Coxon, he does use bar chords a little bit more, but a lot of the kind of hit songs that he created use quite similar chords. For example, if we take Park Life, we've got an E major, and then we've got a couple of sus chords. Now, Noel Gallagher plays the E major chord in some songs, lots of songs. He uses sus chords, as we spoke about earlier, with those Wonderwall chords. So there's some similarities. I think there may be a perception of Coxon's guitar player to be super complicated, and then by default his chord usage will be maybe a bit more complicated. But actually, Park Life, 3 chords, E major, we've got a couple of sus chords, very similar to Noel Gallagher. Here's the difference. You probably watched this and thought, Josh, you're playing it wrong. What a noob. Going to click off this video. But what I find is Coxon puts his own twist on some simple concepts. So for example, the simple concepts are those 3 chords, but he puts a twist on it by moving it up to essentially the next octave. So with use of chords, we found a similarity and also a difference. So let's move on to guitar solos. Again, starting with Noel Gallagher, he uses mainly pentatonic bass guitar solos. Now, to explain this to people that don't necessarily know guitar or even know pentatonic scales, the best way I can describe this is generally when he plays notes in a guitar solo, there'll be a gap of 2 between his frets. So for example, if we take a little bit of the beginning of the Live Forever solo, what he's doing there is he's using his 12th and 14th fret notes, and as we spoke about earlier, there's a gap of 2 frets there, and a lot of that guitar solo will have that gap of 2 frets. Another example of this pentatonic use is in the guitar solo for Don't Look Back in Anger. We're going to focus on a little particular part, which is here. Now, I played that pretty quick, but I'm just going to slow it down and we're going to go through the frets that he's using there. So he's going from 3 to 5. And then he's moving across to 5 and 7, 7 and 9, and 8 and 10. It's all gaps of 2, very, very pentatonic based. And what I find personally for his guitar solos is they are very, very melodic, and they almost act as like a vocal melody, and that's probably why you could get up some Oasis videos, and when he's playing a guitar solo quite similar to the studio recording, the crowd will probably kind of sing it back to him, or sing his guitar solo back. I think that's one of the really big things about his guitar playing is his knowledge of melody. So if we compare to Coxon, I think this is a particular area where there's quite a contrast. In a lot of Coxon solos, there's a lot of use of effects and bends and almost kind of random notes. He's not necessarily using a scale or going down and up a scale. And I think this makes him quite unique, but at the same time, he's kind of on the opposite ends, whereas Noel Gallagher's a more traditional guitar solo maker, composer, whatever you want to call it. Coxon's on the opposite side. It's not traditional, it's very much improvised, and it's also quite difficult to replicate. So if you're trying to learn it on guitar and play along guitar, it's actually quite difficult, where it's not really too traditional compared to Noel Gallagher, where it's a little bit more straightforward to play the guitar solos. So solos that do have those kind of wild note choices and effects. Off the top of my head straight away, you've got Country House, you've got There's No Other Way, the big guitar solo in Coffee and TV 2. If we narrow in on Park Life, we've got a mini guitar solo that's actually quite melodic. We've got so that particular part there is quite melodic, but again, it's not really using a scale massively. It's actually using some chords and some hammer-ons too. Point number 3 I want to look at is lead guitar mixed in with rhythm guitar. Now, there's lots of examples for both guitar players, but for Noel Gallagher, we're just going to look at the very beginning of Don't Look Back in Anger. Now, I know it's actually played on piano, but you can play it on guitar too. Now, that is a great example there of just, it revolves around essentially a C and almost an F chord. You're playing that, and then he chucks in those lead guitar riffs. I think it's really, really cool. I love that style of playing, mixing rhythm guitar and lead guitar too. Jimi Hendrix did it quite a lot. John Frusciante does it quite a lot. And as we're going to speak about now, Graham Coxon does it too. So for Graham Coxon and how he mixes lead guitar and rhythm guitar, we're going to pop a capo on and we're going to be looking at There's No Other Way. So in the verse in particular, we've got now, there is quite a lot going on there, but his chord choices, going back to that at the start of the video, it's not that odd, okay? It revolves around a D sus chord, goes to a C. Difference is he had some hammer-ons, then he goes to an A, and he slides up, then he goes back to a C, adds a hammer-on too. But again, that's just quite a similarity with Noel Gallagher, and I think generally Graham Coxon probably did it a little bit more, and I think the main reason for that is he was obviously the only guitarist in Blur. I know that Damon Albarn sometimes plays the acoustic guitar and things like that, but because he is the only guitarist, it's quite cool to mix in that rhythm and that lead. For Noel Gallagher, obviously he had Bonehead that was playing the rhythm parts, and that kind of left him quite free for the lead guitar and the solos too. So the last point I'd like to make is the accessibility of both of the guitar players. Now, I think that Noel Gallagher is a bit more accessible to listen to, but also, as this is a guitar channel, learn and also play on guitar. As we mentioned earlier, he uses open chords quite heavily, and he has a very pentatonic based solo technique, which people that are learning guitar can pick up fairly quickly and start strumming along to his songs or playing the guitar solos in his songs. Now, I think that's quite a contrast to Graham Coxon, who, where he is so unique with his guitar playing, he takes kind of some of the simpler concepts and puts his own twist on it. Can be quite inaccessible maybe for people listening. Not so much for me because I quite like his guitar playing, but certainly for people who are learning guitar, I think Blur songs can be quite tricky to learn, particularly those guitar solos, which are very improvised with lots of effects on it too. And generally you will find that there's quite a lot of Oasis tutorials on YouTube and quite a few accurate tabs, and that's not really the case for Blur. It's quite sparse on accurate tabs and YouTube videos too. So I thought this was just something quite interesting to mention. So that has been Noel Gallagher and Graham Coxon's guitar playing compared and contrasted with. What do you think? Drop a comment below and let me know. Are there any favourite guitar parts from both of those guitar players that you like? Any that I should check out? If you like this video, click the like button, click subscribe and the bell. That way you'll be notified each week when I upload a guitar lesson.